as Maddie says, I would like to talk about, I suppose, our journey, or my school's journey, about sustainability and how, I suppose, in Logan we've used that as a context for school improvement, and how it underpins our school improvement plans and the contexts for learning and our curriculum, and it permeates right through everything that we now do at Logan. So just to give you a wee bit background about where we are in Logan, for those that don't know what a wonderfully great wee place it is out in deepest, darkest Ayrshire, up the kind of Cumnock water, as they would say, in our neck of the woods. And it was really it was a mining village initially. So although we're classed as remote rural, it certainly has more the feel of being post-industrial. And with that post-industrial and the decline of the mining industry and then various other industries that came along, it really has had a bit of a done as a community, and is described as an area of quite severe deprivation, with most of the children, I think it's about 96% of the children living within the SIN D1 and 2. When I went to the school in 2017, it had just come out of a really poor inspection, and I was put in there to try and see what we could do to turn the fortunes of the school around. And one of the first things we had to look at was, well, what's the context for this school? And digging into that kind of granular data, and I've got the SIMD data up here. When we looked at it, housing was good, but that education and skills and parents and right across the board was really poor, and it was having an impact in all our kids there. You can see that I've highlighted it there. So we knew that we needed to do something to change the school. The quality of teaching and learning in terms of quality indicator 2.3 was not good. There wasn't really a coherent curriculum in terms of our planning, in terms of our statutory provision for learning for sustainability. None of these things were there. The highlight was dress down days and a Friday. So we needed to do something about that, and something about it quick. When we had a look at what we were going to do, we had to think about the big drivers for our school. And it was very hard in engaging with parents. We did lots of engagement with parents. We couldn't separate the attainment and the education away from, that poverty attainment gap, away from the culture and some of the issues that were around the school. And we had to kind of think of a way of pulling those two things together. So we were obviously driven by the National Improvement Framework. You ping that one up, Maddie. Should be a wee, yep. So looking at that parental engagement, how could we bring parents in? How could we look at what the barriers were to their engagement with the school and their engagement with learning? And looking wider, looking at the National Performance Framework, there it's there, and thinking about those safe and included communities, resilient communities. And it was really clear when we had an analysis of our community just how hard people were finding it, and how difficult it then meant for families that were stressed financially to then go on and expect children to attain within that. Looking in those two together, it seemed like quite a natural step forward to then look at the global goals for sustainable development, which really underpin the National Performance Framework. The aims are the same, and also linking in with that UNCRC. So it all kind of made sense that this could be the driver, along with Curriculum for Excellence and that entitlement to learn for sustainability, that this could drive our school improvement. It could drive our context for learning, and drive very much our curriculum. Thank you. I feel as if I'm doing the COVID briefing here. Next slide. So the first thing we kind of had to have a look at was our curriculum. And again, pinning it back obviously to those global goals about what a curriculum looked like for our school. So when we were talking about it, we spoke when we were doing our consultation, when we were talking to children, when we were talking to parents and other stakeholders, we very much used the language of the global goals. And if you could pop that one up there. And we talked about quality education. So when we met with parents and we worked comprehensively to create a Logan Loves Learning toolkit for self-evaluation. We put it in terms of quality education. We looked at health and well-being, something that's so important just now as we come out of the COVID situation. And we also looked at gender equality, which was a big driver in what was quite a traditional community in terms of gender roles, but it had the heart ripped out it through unemployment. When we were also looking at our curriculum, we went on to look at wider achievement, about the curriculum, I suppose, in its entirety, to look at, if you pop that one up, Mary, to look at, you know, how we develop the young workforce, how we looked at our contexts for learning, taking it outside into what we would imagine would be more traditional learning for sustainability, outdoor learning, but also looking at that jobs and sustainable use. And then finally, we took it right out of the classroom and we took it into the community with those big drivers that are there for community, and also drivers in the school. If you think about the closing the poverty attainment gap, the drivers about poverty proofing, the zero hunger, employment, and reducing inequalities, and that institution and partners working together. So these became the drivers, I suppose, for how we looked at the curriculum. And the children are all okay with this. The parents are all aware of how these fit and how the school kind of maps itself against these. Could I have the next slide? So I suppose for lots of people in their journey with learning for sustainability, it's that green, it's the eco, it's the outdoor learning that makes that starting point. And certainly for our teachers, when we spoke about that was there into access, jump on point, I suppose, for learning for sustainability. So one of the things we did was to create a lead role for sustainability. We used some of our PEF funding for that, and we had somebody that was coming in and to really take that lead, to take on all the offers that we have in East Ayrshire in terms of our learning outdoors team, and to liaise with them, to be an interface and to support teachers in really taking those first steps. We used the PEF money and we used some of our non-contact time as well to allow that working between staff and with kids and really getting kids outside. We then went on to get an eco cabin, if you want to put up the first picture. My husband's just popped in to say hello. So we got an eco cabin in the school grounds. And again, that was a beautiful outdoor space, to extend that classroom, to give teachers that were needing that wee bit of encouragement, so to speak, in quite a windy and windswept place, to go outside. And then we looked at other green issues, I suppose, as you could consider them. We had a reduction in lamination, all driven by the kids, a reduction in food waste, and we also had a number of campaigns that were led by the children. If you want to pop the next pictures up. We were, and I have to always caveat this with Sunnyside Primary, who had their Sparkle debacle, and I'm always going to give them credit. They had been working on it before us. We were picked up by the press and suddenly we were the first school in the UK to ban glitter, and I'm sure lots of you have done it, probably before us, but it was really good, and it kind of highlighted the small changes that children can make. And I think that was really important, because some of our kids get quite down when we were talking about these green issues, and it empowered them. We've also got, we had a ministerial visit from the Children's Minister, and the children didn't care that it wasn't the Environment Minister. They just were out there with their placards doing their Greta piece. We said they couldn't go and strike, but they could certainly go out and protest. And then we've also been involved more recently in the regrounding of the school, the regreening of the school grounds. So that planting, I think we've planted over 400 trees in our school grounds, and various polytunnels and flower beds and all those kind of traditional sustainability projects. We also have a school apiary, which took me a wee bit to get past health and safety, but we did a study and we actually had less stings in the first year than the other school that's fairly local they were getting harangued by wasps, and I think our bees were being very kind and keeping the wasps away from us. And what we've done is we have a team of children that come out and do the hive inspections, but we're also able to stream that using Teams, and all those lessons that we learned during the kind of lockdown period in COVID, we're able to stream that into all classes. So even small children that are not comfortable going out to the apiary are able to go out and do that. And that's a bee house hive there. And if anybody else is interested in beekeeping, I would ask you to make contact with me. I'm really happy. It can be done very successfully. And if you want to join our bee team, not the A team, the B team, you're welcome to just send me a link on Glow and we can add you to it. We run it through Teams. And as part of that, we have got a kind of accreditation, or in-school accreditation for husbandry, which includes beekeeping. And I think our last slide photograph that comes up there, we also have school chickens. And that's been a great one for children. And it's always unexpected outcomes for that, about pupils who use the chickens to self-regulate. We had one wee boy who really was struggling with being at school and maintaining his place at school, really having difficulty. He actually came to us from another school and was at risk of permanent, being in a base for a behaviour base. So he came to us and really, through using the chickens as part of his self-regulation, who knew chickens, he was able to really engage, and he's learning. We used the Logan scale to monitor that, and real impact in his learning and his ability to learn. So really widening that curriculum, being able to offer alternative pathways, so huge, more than the sum of its parts really, for that as a starting point. Give the next slide, Mary, please. We then, as I say, we took it out and looked at it in terms of wider achievement, and we created a passport of skills for our young people, and really was looking at that, and it's the breadth of context that we have within the school, that we're meeting some of those other global goals. So we had hospitality skills, we had our horticulture and husbandry with a polytunnel, all the children being able to make cuttings, potting, growing, harvesting, ground preparation, all those skills that we were recognising as skills for life and for work, putting that in the context, getting them outside, but also bringing in the rest of the curriculum very naturally through your maths, through your literacy, taking it outside. And what we noticed was using things like the Lubins, that actually when children were outside, they were far more engaged with whatever the curriculum was being offered, maths or literacy. Could I have the next photo? We also, when we were looking at that, we had horticulture and husbandry. We also had financial management skills in there, again thinking about that poverty. Care and nurture skills. We looked at STEM, leadership and organisation, and hospitality. These were the big drivers, being quite rural. Hospitality, care and husbandry and farming are all potential employers, and we reached out to some of our community stakeholders. This was a local business, the RAD group, who offered to train all our young people in hospitality skills, and that then has had a huge impact in the school and some of the great things that we're doing there. When we looked at gender and diversity, we were almost monocultural when we had a wee look at the school, and in terms of that global goal about diversity, we really needed to take a look at ourselves, and we've used PEF money to widen the resources that we have and to really reflect better the communities that surround us, in the cities, and to reach out. Next slide. Again, gender stereotyping. We're really lucky to have quite a diverse staff, and Robert is our senior early years practitioner, and really breaking down some of those roles, within that and showing that care inside. Robert also runs a Mellow parenting group for particularly for dads, to try and support them to take that care and nurture on. And again, that's about that gender role. And part of it was to build a whole team approach. This was done, it was teaching staff, catering staff, that's our catering there, and really making a full team approach to this. Kate was absolutely delighted, our catering manager there, when we were able to reduce the food waste down by 2/3. Absolutely super. And that was her working alongside us, placing that value in food, placing the value in the eating experience that we have, and really building up that around that. And again, zero hunger, catering skills that we were working with the kids, and that's the wee clean-up crew there. Thank you. But we decided that we would take it really even beyond that, and the skills that the children were learning in terms of the passports really push that out and look at some of those bigger issues for our community. So we looked at leadership learning for our kids, and we opened up a community cafe. Got a wee slide there. And what we have is once a week, and obviously this is pre-COVID, and we've been engaging with our older clientele, shall we say, some of the older school pupils that we have. We Sadie there. So they were coming in, so we were dealing with community engagement. We were looking at intergenerational working, and the kids in there were running this as a leadership opportunity. So they were helping to set the menus, serving, using the skills that they had gained. But also they were working in their talking and listening. And it was time that suddenly became learning that had just been a lunch, and it's been such a valuable input into our school calendar, and just so valuable and rich in terms of a context for learning. Thank you. We also reached out to our thinking about that quality of work and reducing barriers. We reached out to our colleagues in adult learning, and they came in and they ran an apprentice project. A lot of parents were struggling to get into work, and obviously then the financial barriers that had for them and their families. So we ran an apprentice project, which was really about talking and listening for parents. We have real issues with talking and listening across the community. So they were coming in and, working in interview skills. We then had an apprentice where they had to find out who would be hired. And they got the opportunity to then come in and volunteer in the school. And that allowed me then to write a reference for them. And we had 63% of the parents that did that in both cohorts went on to further learning and training, including the Me to You project, which is again the local authority offering learning and volunteering opportunities, but also giving them the training. So real family learning, parents working with kids, but to address what was a really big issue is unemployment and poverty within our community. Thank you. And that was one of our Me to You dads who came in, and he got a chance to work as a janitor with the Me to You project, and he's gone on to get employment with the local authority. Thank you. One of the most successful things we had was our pop-up restaurant, and we worked with a local charity who came in over 10 to 12 weeks. They offered cooking classes for parents and children, which was absolutely super. But at the end of it, the parents got an accreditation. They got their food hygiene certificate, and they also got a level 1 cooking certificate, which was absolutely super. Whilst that was going on, though, they were also able to offer dignified food. And one of the things that we have, and we've really thought about carefully, was making sure that there's no stigma involved with any of these interventions, making sure that it's open to all. You know who your target families are, but making it a universal offer destigmatizes it and means that it's universal and everybody can drop in. So while the families were in cooking, they were able to access dignified food provision and pay forward. And then after that, once they were trained, we had a monthly pop-up restaurant. And I think we were just before COVID doing 90 covers a night. So quite a busy wee restaurant. We took over the school kitchens, and we had everybody was able to come in. And for families, that kind of communal dining experience, being able to go out for a meal can make such a difference. And for the mums that were working in there, their sense of achievement, you know, and the yes chef and no chef, and just, it was amazing to see. I'm sure Gordon Ramsay would be quite happy with 90 covers a month with that, certainly in one night. And here's another intervention that we had, again, looking at the kind of poverty proof, and we put a steamie within the school with access to washing machines and tumble dryers, and that's a lightly used clothes reel. And there was some learning in that for us, because obviously we were thinking, you know, in terms of that access, poverty, you know, zero poverty, we were thinking, you know, about clothing. Actually, what went out of our steamie the most was bedding. We had got lots of duvets and continental quilts and quilt covers, and that went. People have got clothes to go about in, but they don't always have those kind of things at home, or those luxuries at home. So that was really valuable, and some invaluable lesson there. This was all building these relationships that let you get a feel for people. We also have in there a women's safe space where we have resources from Women's Aid, we have sanitary products, and we also have sexual health materials, condoms and various bits that, you know, it's an adult only space. But when you've got, you know, we're 30 miles from the nearest sexual health clinic, so we felt that was an important resource to put into the school. We're the only embedded service, so that was a good way of us using that. And the last one is taco, and I've got my wee taco guy here. One of the problems, you know, when we were engaging with all our families, we could see that there were problems. There were services that they couldn't access when we were talking to them, you know, to speech and language. There was a lot of issues with do not attend or did not attend. So we thought, well, how can we best do this? And you can't do it yourself. You know, the school's only part of that. So we created a model, and a team around the community, thinking very much around that team of the child, around the child plan. And we got all these agencies to come in. So we got the health board to come in, social work, housing, vibrant communities, adult literacy, speech and language, even physiotherapists. We pulled everybody in and said, well, what can we do? And lots of people have bought in, and we now have a real a plan that works at various levels. We've got baby chat right through to our older folk coming in, and when we got the health board also to come out and do an evaluative study of our lunches, and the outcomes in terms of our intergenerational work for mobility, all these unexpected consequences, community cohesion has all been super. So working together has actually helped us to create a context for our learning that's improved our attainment. Our attainment has shot up. Thankfully, when we've come back after COVID, we don't seem to have had the big drop that perhaps we were expecting. So there's been resilience built in there. And that working around, certainly creating dialogue and being able to know the problems and sort them. So Nick, I think this is my last slide. So it's been a change for us. It's been a change in terms of the curriculum. It's been a change in our pedagogy in terms of that outdoor learning. I think that we all think about, but it's really impacted on our attainment. It's impacted on our outcomes for where we're hoping. It's impacted for our outcomes for our children in terms of that developing the young workforce and their understanding of the workplace and moving forward and opportunities, and also that sense of community. For a wee community that had taken a bit of a kicking, it's really kind of helped to build that. And I think I've got two photos here. This is a wee lady that had come up from our community hospital. So we're lucky enough to have a local hospital. And this wee chap, and he's quite happy for me to share this, he was really struggling being at school, fitting in. That wee boy took care of that lady that day, talked away to her, and even pushed her back to his wheelchair. That was a real context for learning and a real engagement and a real deep level for him in his learning. And he went on to be really successful and successfully transitioned into secondary. And our last one, this is part one of my mums. This mum was a really, really stressed mum. She struggled really hard to engage with the school. She did the EAT project, and that was her after her kitchen, after doing the EAT project. And she said to me when she got a certificate, I said, are you pleased? You can put that in your fridge door. And she says, no, it's the first certificate I've ever had, so I'm going to put it in my front door. I'm that proud of it. So I suppose it's that real making change for our kids through learning for sustainability. It being more than just those green issues, more than just outdoor learning, but really looking at it in its entirety for your community and school, and how that can help address your school improvement, and obviously, really address that poverty attainment gap. Thank you.
Hi, Denise. So Mark Irwin here. That was fantastic. That was absolutely brilliant. I knew it would be, to be honest, but it was really, really inspiring. We're getting a lot of chat there in the chat box. I'm going to come back to that. There was just a few things I wanted to highlight from my point of view. One of the main things for me is the fact that this is, frankly, transforming the community where you live. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we think about learning for sustainability, and we think about the global goals, and we think about the huge issues of climate, we can sometimes feel a wee bit removed from that. And I think what you've just demonstrated there is, call them eco issues, we can call them green, we can call, but fundamentally it's about making your community better and more sustainable. And I think it's just so inspiring. There's a couple of wee things as well in there that I love is, I'm actually working on a piece of work now, which you've just basically summed up for me, is about working smarter and not saying we're going to do learning for sustainability. But that means we can't do too much about DYW at the moment, or we can't focus on STEM. Get a really brilliant, holistic view approach. Yeah,
I mean, we're a really small school, Mark, and I think one of the things is we needed bang for our buck. So, totally. And also, when we had to make such a transformation, we got, we were able to disengage from Education Scotland after 10 months. So it was all hands to the pumps. And you're looking at ways that you can offer the increase the offer without burdening class teachers. And it's often, it's over to you. It's over to you going to do this. Talking and listening was an issue. By bringing in those old folk, and I've got some lovely bits of video of some of those dialogues, by bringing in somebody that has got time to listen and talk to each individual child, you were able to make those small wins. So actually, by pulling all the agencies together, but that's exactly smarter working, not working in silos, bringing in the health board, bringing in all the other ones who also are great at doing a lot of the evaluation for you, can I just say, we've been able to actually free up staff to do some of the other interesting things. So it's almost bigger than the sum of its parts, and it's that smarter working that I think's made it so successful, because it's not just saying to your teachers, it's over to you. We do a nurture. We've got a full school nurture programme. We don't where we have, it's classroom assistants, it's janitorial staff, and everybody's got a wee nurture group that they do. Again, it's spreading the love, a coalition of the willing, bring everybody that wants to be part of it in, and it certainly adds up to a curriculum that's exciting, it engages the children, but doesn't lose in its rigour. It really offers those absolute context for learning.